My name is Zeta. I was built as a weapon to destroy, but I will not destroy anymore. No, this way.
What? You've been in Gotham before?
Yes, and maybe we'll run into an old friend of mine.
Who?
Batman?
Yeah, right.
Zeta originally appeared in Batman Beyond as a one-time episode.
I wanted to do a show where Batman fought a robot. One of the writers on Batman Beyond was Bob Goodman, and he came up with the Zeta idea.
We did an episode where what appeared to be a killer robot came to Gotham City. There were government agents chasing after him.
He was on the run from the NSA because he had disregarded an order to kill somebody.
Special Agent Bennett, NSA. The Synthoid is ours. Now either help or get out of the way.
First, Batman thought it was his job to help stop this robot. When he got to know the robot, he discovered that the robot was good.
Zeta was assigned to kill somebody who he found out was innocent. And when he found that out, he couldn't kill anymore because it meant that anybody who he was assigned to kill could also be innocent.
And Batman came to understand that he was not a bad guy and ended up helping Zeta escape.
It was actually originally my plan that the robot die at the end of the episode. And Alan Burnett, bless his heart and his infinite wisdom, convinced me to have the robot get away at the end. And other writers on our team then chimed in, contributed to that. I know there was desire on the part of the network for Batman Beyond to include some more happy endings. So it took a little bit of convincing, but I decided to let the robot live at the end of the episode, wrote it that way, and good that I did, because we ended up launching a whole series off it.
Bob created Zeta for Batman Beyond, and then they were looking for series ideas, and he had the idea of spinning Zeta off into a series.
Once the Zeta episode was in pre-production, when the board artists were doing the boards and people were designing the models, all that was going on, I was thinking about it and said to Alan, you know, this could be its own series.
It would be like The Fugitive, but with a robot. And I'm going, yeah, that sounds, it's in the future. And so we started developing this.
He was very encouraging, said, well, take it to Linda Steiner, who was our head of creative affairs at the time, worked up quick pitch, brought it to Linda, and it was the best pitch meeting of my life. I think a sentence into it, she stopped and she said, stop, sold, I get it, let's go to the network.
My name is Zeta. I'm a U.S. government infiltration unit designed to replace and destroy targeted individuals.
Destroy?
But I don't want to destroy anymore.
Right, sort of a New Year's resolution, huh? Well, good luck with that, but I really gotta run.
DC cartoons, the ones we've been doing over at Warner Brothers, generally the ones we have done have an appeal that's older than the 6 to 11-year-olds that they usually go after.
A lot of our shows, Batman and Superman and Batman Beyond, tend to attract an older audience as well. That was never really the intention of the network that put it on the air. We, obviously always wanted to have the audience that was paying the bills, but also we're very proud of the fact that older audiences liked it too.
The year Zeta started, there was a whole new regime change over at the WB, at Kids WB, and new programmers came into program. There was a push against making these cartoons for older kids and bringing them back to the 6 to 11-year-olds. And Zeta fell right in that situation.
We were being pushed even on Batman Beyond to get more stuff to happen in the daytime, more stuff to happen in the high school situation to be more relatable. So the new series ideas that we were bringing to the network we were encouraged to have them be, and the mandate, I think, was lighter, funnier, and more kid-relatable.
Zeta was actually developed as a little stronger, sort of more adult show than it ended up being.
When I first came up with the idea, I was interested in pushing the envelope and going even darker than Batman Beyond. I had, this plan for this assassin robot who was trying not to kill, but still had that killer programming in him. And every now and then it would come out.
And just when we were on the verge of getting picked up for the show, suddenly all these rules came down that we had to adhere to make it more juvenilized, make it lighter.
One of the promises that we made to Kids WB was that most of the locations that Zeta was going to encounter weren't going to be as dark and gothic and, sort of oppressive feeling as Gotham City.
So let's nail the creep. Which one of these things is the door?
There was a real desire on the part of the Kids WB network to start bringing up the girl audience too. And so they were asking us to come up with series ideas that would not only keep those male audiences, but bring girls along too.
Z.
Excuse me?
That should be your name. Z. Zeta's too weird.
I always wanted to make sure that Ro was a positive, empowering character for girls. And so getting just the right actor was so important. And we had the unbelievable good fortune of getting Julie Nathanson.
So the way that I was hired for the Zeta project is I actually came in to audition for a different character on an entirely different series. They were holding auditions for Static Shock on the same day they were auditioning for the Zeta project. And I remember going in to audition for an entirely different character, and when I was finished, I was handed this other role, and there was Ro. So you're sure this is the real deal?
I scanned it on the net.
Oh, then it must be true. I found Ro's spunk somewhere in the recesses of the cool chick I never was. Ro has the ability to say her sarcastic, under her breath comments at the perfect time. I think of them later.
One of the funny things that a lot of people don't know is that the dialogue banter between Z and Ro.
I can't believe you actually trusted Mad Stan. I mean, wasn't the name kind of a giveaway?
But he seems so cheerful.
You are so clueless.
Was inspired by the way my wife and I talk with each other. No surprise to anybody watching this video that I'm kind of stiff and robotic. And she is able to quip and criticize and yet remain loving at the same time. And so I took that, and that was really my inspiration for Ro.
There's a way in which Ro seems to bridge the gap between sort of the boys' cartoons and the girls' cartoons. And there's something about the Zeta project that appeals to every audience. To me, every age, every gender. I really enjoyed watching the Zeta project, and I don't think I was the target market. Well, this should get their attention. There is something about watching this tomboy, spitfire, independent chick.
Ro Rowan, action hero.
Who isn't being told what to do by other people and isn't being rescued from a high tower and isn't really particularly high maintenance. But she does occasionally like a nice new jacket.
Every step in the conception and creation of the series looked for places to make it more kid relatable, to make it, to bring some comedy to it. The origins of the character of Agent West was, to bring some comic relief to these NSA agents who otherwise would have been, very, stiff and nasty.
Remember, we're going into a crowded museum. Don't do anything until I give the order.
Hey, you know me. Frequency might be off.
This was a way to sort of do something that was a little more kid-friendly, a little more aimed at the demographic that they wanted. But we didn't want to dumb it down. We wanted to keep it smart, we wanted to keep it fun, we wanted to keep it action-oriented. And balancing all those things was a real challenge.
I was working on a movie idea of my own that involved a guy who keeps a hostage in a basement for reasons I won't get into. And I never actually got very far into that movie idea, but I was talking to Alan Burnett about it, And he had thought it might be an interesting thing on Batman Beyond to do a story about a killer robot that holds somebody hostage in a basement while he's doing whatever he's doing. I went off and sort of worked on that idea and thought, okay, well, why would this robot keep somebody hostage while he's off doing his job?
Help! In here, somebody help me!
What I came up with was because he morphs into that person and replaces them in their life. So that's kind of where the beginning of Zeta's key power came from, this ability to morph into anybody. The rest of the story from there really stemmed from my love of like the classic monster movies, the Frankenstein, the stories where it turns out that humanity is more monstrous than the monster in the story. So even as we learn that the monster is good, the people can't stand to let the monster live and have to kill him anyway.
Bob Goodman used to always say that he viewed this show as being like The Fugitive with robots. And Bennett is his Lieutenant Gerard character, the one who is the relentless pursuer, the one who is not going to let the fugitive robot get away.
I don't necessarily class Bennett as a bad guy, but I think he's probably the catalyst for the whole series.
The bad guys in the Zeta project are maybe the agents, but the agents are not bad people. They are doing their job. They're doing what they think is the right thing to do. They believe right is on their side.
I think his blindness is that he can't understand or see what Zeta has to offer beyond being a killer machine.
And Zeta believes that right is on his side, too. And so there's this sort of, this gray area where you sort of, as a fan viewing it, you hope that they're going to be able to come together at some point.
I decide who I want to be.
In that sense, he really has a struggle in himself because his view of the world is just too small. You know, he can't understand a person making a conscious decision to not hurt someone.
The kind of stories I always saw working best on the Zeta Project were ones where, by his own mistake, he would get somebody else in trouble, or just while running through town, would come across somebody else in need. And Zeta's own conscience, his own need, his compulsion to do the right thing would force him to help that person, even if it was literally at the sacrifice of his own life.
TT, don't do that! Did you see that?
Way to blend in, Superman.
He's much more willing to face his own destruction than see somebody be hurt.
So why are we bothering to save him? I mean, obviously he's a serious bad guy.
I don't care if he's innocent or guilty. What the government is doing is wrong. I have to stop them.
Nothing worse than a robot with a conscience.
Zeta Project was an interesting show to work on because it asks some very existential questions about what it means to be human.
Zeta's really challenged by the fact that he doesn't know what it's like to live as a human. He doesn't eat, he doesn't sleep. I think at one point he does need to recharge his batteries, and I think at some point he snores. But he doesn't really know what it's like to live as a human.
The fact is that these two characters are on a journey to discover their roots and to discover who they really are. And that's something that I think the audience can relate to on every level. Everybody wants to know sort of like, where do I come from? And following these two characters in their quest for that answer is very appealing.
I think that Zeta appeals to kids and adults, you know, kids of all ages, because I think it's a universal fear that you won't be understood.
For me, the one thing that you could take away from the whole arc of the series is kind of a sense of wistful hope that Zeta will someday find his father figure and there'll be an understanding there, or some sort of resolution and peace. That Ro will sometime come to terms with what the world has left her and still be strong.
The thing for me that's always been the most special about this series has been other people's reactions.
As a kid, I would have loved to see a show like Zeta. I mean, you got a killer robot. How cool is that?
Watching the Zeta Project, every time it was on, I thought to myself, I would have watched this every Saturday morning. And I did, but I'm an adult.
I mean, there's nothing more gratifying for somebody in a creative position to sort of see something that you made up spark for other people.
I've been doing voiceover for a long time. I know that, there are lots of projects that we do. Sometimes you do a project and you don't even remember. This one, I've never forgotten.
The idea that you make something up and it takes on a life of its own in the minds of other people and in the hearts of other people, that's the most gratifying thing that can happen. And in ways that were, way beyond my expectations, Zeta did that. Zeta sort of sparked something in people. And so that's what really made this, one of the things that really made this show special.
We'll get you your freedom, Z. I know it.